The experiment of liberty. Uh, this is something that recently came to mind while I was reading like Ron Paul's Liberty Defined. Just a phrase that I highlighted, I like screenshotted and highlighted, the experiment of liberty. This is something that I thought about actually for quite a long time, but I never had so much clarity about it until I just recently read, some of his book. Um, it's like I've always had that notion. It's like no one, despite the fact that people claim that we're a free society, it's like a part of being free is not knowing what the future holds. That's like just a quality of it. It's like everyone is happy that they feel free and that they're free to do what they want, but in the long term, it's like even a free society, quote unquote free society like ours, it's like nothing like this really that we can see has existed like this in recorded history. There's no society like the United States, or there hasn't been one like ours. At least to the extent or the I don't know, like the size, the grandiosity of it. It's like no one knows. It's like we have all these historical accounts of like different civilizations and how they functioned and like how they operated and like what the conclusion was to that kind of lifestyle or that kind of civilization or that kind of way of doing things. And it's like with ours, we don't actually possess a long-term view of what is going to happen. It's like at this point in time, it seems like as the years go by, at least the last decade or last 2 decades, maybe more than that, at least while the time I've been alive, it's like there are so many steps in our progression as a country where it's like we're reaching new levels of unprecedented circumstance. And it's like we have to like work through what we have at the moment, and then we have to adapt and repose to the new circumstances that have never been even observed before. You know what I mean? So it's like, despite the fact that we have the freedom, it puts us in like this precarious position where we don't necessarily know what the outcome is as we progress. So it's like an experiment. It's not necessarily like a strong foundational like method of behaving and acting in the world. It's more of like everyone is just free to like kind of wing it. Everyone is just free to do as they please and then have to adapt to the consequences of it at some other time, not knowing what the consequences are. So I just think like the idea of liberty being an experiment rather than like a strong principle is like more valuable. To look at it as an experiment is more valuable than thinking that it's like a principled way of living, a principled way of looking at the world. It's like to realize that it's experimental is more valuable. It's more realistic. It's more, and I think like grasping for that realistic notion just increases our potential to take freedom more seriously. I think that's another reason why that these ideas are valuable. It really puts into perspective like where one could go with freedom, which is either quote unquote good, like a good path or a bad path. It's like thinking about these things makes you think about how you have to be more aware of the circumstances that you have freedom in, and you could better utilize that freedom for a more like an outcome that ought to be, rather than an outcome that is like unforeseen or chaotic. I think I really can't articulate this the way I want to, but I think I'm getting my point across either way. I hope so. Experiment of liberty, just that phrase, I like it a lot, so I wanted to make a video talking about these ideas and why I like the phrase. I just think they're worth thinking about, they're worth considering. Experiment of liberty. Like, no, I personally, it's like, I believe that no one really knows where all of this is going, and all the people that do know, especially in like in a larger way, they have power that they might not actually should have. I don't know. It's kind of just like going into some of the other stuff that I'm talking about today. It seems like like this idea could be useful in sifting through the different things that are at play in society and what the true value, or you could use these ideas to approach a truer estimation or appreciation of the value that is presented to you if you realize freedom from this more realistic perspective of what actual freedom is. And it's like the consequences of the freedom and its experiment is like people, when freedom, when life is lived through this notion of freedom, and then there are consequences that are negative from freedom. It's like people are willing to give up that freedom in order to feel more secure, which is actually not, to me, that's not like such a good way to look at things. It's like people, if you want freedom, it's like you have to realize that you have to be like strong enough, or you have to be willing to adapt to negative outcomes, to the extent that maybe an example would be better for this. It's like, I don't know if this is a good example. This is just the way I look at it. Maybe, I'm not saying this is the right way, but it's like gun control. It's like, yeah, let's go with gun control, right? It's like, let's go with gun control. It's just like, if people have the freedom to like have guns and open carry them, there might be more incidents where people are using the weapons that they are free to carry in a way that's not good. Like they're just like hurting a person, they're killing a person that truly didn't deserve to be killed, or they, two people start shooting at each other because of a disagreement, right? It's like that is the cost of having the freedom to have open carry, or like everyone to have a gun. It's like that's what I'm trying to say. It's like the people want freedom, but then when they realize what the cost is in like circumstances when that freedom is like a part of that life, they reject the freedom immediately. Like they think, oh, just because this circumstance happened, it's like, oh, having this freedom is no good. So that they'll, I don't know, write in the law like, let's get rid of that. And even then, it's like they don't know. All right, we get rid of all the guns. It's like we don't know what the outcome of that is going to be until we have that retrospective kind of view, and how it caused. Like the new law caused, what it caused, is it better than the old way, and so on. It's just like every law that we write is just an experiment, and then we see if it's good or not, and then we'll act on it. It's just not necessarily, it's a chaotic way of organizing society. It's actually chaos. I've heard a lot of people say that or talk about that. It's like the founders of the country, chaos magicians or something like that. It's definitely something that I've heard before, where it's like this country is actually founded on chaos, chaos ritual, chaos magic, chaos, like a chaotic notion of the world. Freedom can be chaotic. It's like we do have freedom, but there's like a structure. I don't know exactly what that structure is, but it's like there's, through freedom we find structure and we cling to it, or we find that it's not quote unquote good for us and then we neglect it or reject it. I don't know. This is all just to give a perspective of the phrase liberty as an experiment. Liberty is an experiment. I just find these ideas interesting. I wanted to talk about them. I think that's all I got for this one, though. So thank you.